Empowerment is one of those words that comes preloaded with all kinds of stereotypes and preconceived notions. Yet it simply means we're no longer identifying as a victim. And with everything I share and each person I interview, I have that one goal in mind: to empower you to stop believing you are a victim so you can create the life that you can only create if you believe you can. Tune in to episode 97 of the Starting Over Stronger podcast to hear the method I used to change everything that had kept me feeling stuck my whole life.
Welcome to the Starting Over Stronger show, where you'll find help and hope for your divorce survival and recovery. Divorce well, live well.
Today, I want to teach you a concept that totally changed my life. It's called TED, and TED stands for the empowerment dynamic. And the first thing I want to tell you about TED is that you can learn it super easily for yourself in a tiny little book by that name, The Power of TED by David Emerald. I hope once you hear my overview of this concept today, you'll want to run out and jump online or whatever and buy it immediately, because I have actually reached out to the author twice with an invitation to appear here on the show, and I have now heard back from them and will be talking with them again soon. And if I manage to make arrangements to get David on the show, I want you to already have heard and read this episode today and his book. I know that you're going to love this concept. It's going to make a lot of difference in your life. I know it because it happened to me. So I already know what I want to interview him about too, and I'll share a bit about that at the end of the show today on what I want to talk with him about. So stick around till the end to hear about that. But for now, I'm just going to share TED from my own perspective, how I learned it and applied it. And I know you're going to love it. I realize I can be a little dramatic at times, but trust me, you want to own this book. You want to read this book, and you want to flag and earmark the heck out of this book. Reading it and applying it over and over again in my former life is honestly probably what empowered me the most to make the changes that made the difference for me in my life. So let's get started. So what is TED, and how does it have the power to change your life? Well, it's really actually ridiculously simple. And so you're going to see that as we go. And I think that you will very easily recognize the pattern that I'm about to explain as well. And once you do, you will possess the power to think differently whenever these situations occur and in every difficult situation that you face. And that's the first step to choosing to do things differently. So in a brief overview of the power of TED by David Emerald, Emerald says, since time immemorial, the default orientation of humanity has been that of victim. Living in an often hostile and dangerous world, human beings honed the fight, flight, or freeze reaction to life experience. And Emerald goes on to explain that it was in the late 1960s that a psychiatrist named Dr. Stephen Karpman identified the basic structure of human dynamics in this victim orientation as involving three roles: victim, persecutor, and rescuer. You may want to write those down. Those are the three key roles that we're going to talk about, and you're going to need to think about over and over again as you untangle the drama in your own life. Every time there is a situation or an argument or a disruption, whatever you want to call it, you're going to want to identify who's playing which of those three roles. Again, I'll say them: victim, persecutor, and rescuer. Everyone is playing one of those three key roles in every disagreement. That is just basic human psychology. There is always a victim, there's always a persecutor, and there's always a rescuer. Sometimes the rescuer or the persecutor is a situation rather than actually a person, but often it can be both. And Dr. Karpman calls these three roles the drama triangle, and sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the dreaded drama triangle. So if you're taking notes, you can actually draw a triangle and place these three key roles on each of the 3 points on the triangle. You can also do a quick online search and you'll really easily come up with a diagram that you can look at as we talk about this. Just search for Karpman drama triangle and it'll come up. Again, the dreaded drama triangle has the rescuer. In most of them, the rescuer is portrayed in the top left corner of the drama triangle if the triangle is upside down with the point at the bottom. Persecutor is on the right and the victim is at the bottom. Not that it necessarily matters, but that's what I'm looking at here. So if you want to draw it that way, great. Otherwise, like I said, look it up and you'll find one drawn for you. Emerald has stated that while there have been many attempts to describe and forge a way to escape the drama triangle, such attempts have always come up short until the power of Ted, the empowerment dynamic. And what I loved best about this book is that it's written as a teaching story. So in other words, it's not your typical nonfiction book. So it's kind of written like illustrative fiction. You kind of feel like you're reading a fictional story about fictional characters, but of course you know that you're actually reading an illustration that offers you kind of a friendly introduction to a powerful new set of alternative roles, as David Emerald refers to it, which have broad implications for meeting life experience more effectively and with much greater fulfillment. So in other words, the power of Ted is going to offer you 3 different key roles that are going to be the alternatives to the victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And so those 3 roles then are going to help you to make the kind of changes that you want in your life. And so the victim, persecutor, and rescuer become instead the creator, challenger, and coach. So each time you face a difficult situation, you can see which old role you were about to play, and you can choose instead to be a creator, challenger, or coach. So let me explain. As Emerald says, the empowerment dynamic, or TED, points the way for stepping into new roles that offer a life of purpose, power, and compassion towards self and others, because TED is rooted in a creator orientation toward work and life. So no more thinking of yourself as a victim. Instead, now, when you begin to feel that old familiar victim feeling, you're going to reframe it into how you can be a creator of change. So in other words, instead of thinking of life as happening to you, you begin to recognize that life is just happening and you get to decide what choices you want to make to create the outcomes you desire. And you begin, in fact, to recognize that, in fact, you have always been a creator. And that because you have seen yourself as a victim, what you have created has been the exact opposite of what you desired. And so now you're going to choose differently. The TED perspective on life turns victims into creators. The creator is the main role in the empowerment dynamic. And as Emerald says, a creator claims and taps into his or her personal power in order to choose his or her response to life's circumstances. This role is result-oriented and it is goal-oriented. It's focused on desired outcomes because creators are just in a more conscious state. They're working consciously and deliberately to deal with their current reality while moving toward the life they envision creating. And how this is different than what you may have done in the past is that you weren't as conscious of it. So you were actually creating the opposite of what you desired by viewing yourself as a victim. And we have all been there. And even when you understand TED on a visceral level and you live it, you still go back there sometimes. So this isn't something to judge or shame yourself for, but it is just a reality. And then secondly, the TED perspective on life turns persecutors into challengers. And as Emerald says, creators are able to transform their perspective toward difficulties with people, difficulties with conditions and or circumstances into challenges to be met, to be understood, and when possible, to be overcome. And unlike the victim who sees every challenge as a persecutor, creators welcome challengers, for they encourage actions that lead to meaningful growth. Challengers may provoke creators to show up as compassionate, as confrontational, or both. The challenger calls forth a creator's will to create, often spurring him or her to learn more skills, to make difficult decisions, and do whatever is necessary to achieve a dream or desire. That's David Emerald's words, but in my words, I would say the challenger is that person or situation in your life that you have felt persecuted by repeatedly, the one that has made you feel stuck or trapped as a victim. But when we decide that we are no longer going to live as victims, that persecutor has to transform too. Because when we are living as a victim, we don't see people and situations as persecuting us. We see them as just being who they are. They are who they are. And we don't have the ability or responsibility to change the person or sometimes the situation. Now we focus instead of focusing on all the mean things that somebody has said or done, or the difficulties that seem to always be present in our lives, we just choose to focus on how those people or situations challenge us to rise up and choose differently. And so we will rise to the challenges that are presented to us rather than seeing them as out to get us. Hopefully that makes sense. Are you getting the support you need as you divorce or face the possibility of divorce? Did you know that for just $55 a month, you can be a part of a 1-hour weekly support group call of people just like you? Some haven't even filed yet, but they know the marriage is not sustainable or healthy. Some were served papers they didn't want. Others are feeling empowered that they finally took the reins of their life and hired an attorney and a divorce coach to help them navigate the uncertain waters of divorce. All of them are facing fear, grief, loss, confusion, and pain, and they're finding help and hope in a Starting Over Stronger support group. You can get registered today for a group at startingoverstronger.com/groups and start this week in getting the help you need to divorce well and then live well. Remember, divorce is hard. Life after doesn't have to be, but the support you get now is what makes the difference. Lastly, the TED perspective on life turns rescuers into coaches. Emerald explains a coach supports, assists, and facilitates a creator in clarifying and manifesting the creator's desired outcome. Coaches help others perceive new possibilities. Coaches dare us to dream. Therefore, a coach also acknowledges and helps leverage the power and capabilities of a creator. And in addition to helping clarify outcomes, the coach also can help a creator dig deep within themselves to accurately and honestly assess their current reality, to identify what resources they have, and to help them to create solutions. The coach then holds the creator accountable for taking the steps necessary to move forward. So again, that was David Emerald's words. And in my words, I would say a coach could be an actual coach like myself. But the coach role is also something that is varied in the way it presents. It could be a person, it could be your therapist, a friend, a family member, but it could be a situation or a part of your life or your faith, such as the Bible, or a book like the Power of Ted book. It could even be a circumstance, such as a divorce or a separation or a decision to put distance between yourself and the drama that's been killing you slowly inside. When we're stuck in a victim mentality, nothing in life seems possible. And we will argue till we're blue in the face with anyone who tells us we can choose differently. We feel so trapped and enmeshed in our drama that it can actually be offensive when someone encourages us to choose a different life. It's offensive because that kind of talk puts us in a place of shame. It makes us feel like you must just not understand my life because you don't get it. I am a victim. But they don't yet recognize that that is a mindset issue, not a circumstance issue. So calling them a victim, of course, can be offensive too. And it's until we recognize that we actually are behaving like a victim and that is exactly what's happening and why we feel the way we do all the time. It's only then that we'll actually stop seeing that as an offensive thing and actually realize somebody just handed us the keys to the life that we've always wanted. We don't know because it is probably what we grew up with. It just feels normal to us. We don't even know there's any other option out there. But the truth is, what I have said in 100 different ways on this show, your life will not change until you change it. And you won't change your life until you actually grasp the fact that you can, that you have that power. And TED, or the empowerment dynamic, is what that's all about. It's about choosing to see yourself as a creator of change in your life instead of a victim. It's about turning your persecutors into challengers so you stop feeling like you're a victim all the time. And it's also about the fact that no one or nothing is coming to rescue you. But so many good things can coach you on your way out of the dreaded drama triangle. And actually, obviously, coaches are a big part of that. People like myself who get certified and dedicate their lives to coaching other people do it because that is what they feel called to do. They want to help people understand the power that they have and how they can change their mindset and dig deep down in and accurately and honestly assess their reality and find what resources they have to create solutions, like David Emerald said in an earlier quote. It truly is about helping people do what they have always felt like was impossible to do. And it becomes possible only when you believe that it is possible. Dr. Stephen Cartman, the psychologist who created the dreaded drama triangle, has said of TED and the new triangle of empowered relationships is that it is a highly original and effective escape from the drama triangle. It transcends all previous attempts to articulate meaningful alternatives to the dreaded drama triangle, to the victim, persecutor, rescuer mindset. And so now that you know the 3 old roles and the 3 new empowered roles, I want to add that when you read the Power of Ted book and that teaching story that I mentioned earlier, it is really, it's actually enjoyable to read, unlike maybe a lot of other nonfiction books if you don't love nonfiction. But because it's written as a story. There's a meeting between 3 characters on a beach in what turns out to be a life-transforming conversation. The central character is David, and he comes into the story as the role of the victim. Don't we all? There is a fellow named Ted who is the embodiment of the empowerment dynamic. So he is rightly named Ted. And he acts as the challenger to the victim, David. And then there is Sophia, who's a mentee of Ted's, and she shares with David her experience of becoming a creator instead of a victim. And in so doing, she's actually playing the role of coach. And so the book is illustrated to convey the story, but also to present essential models so that you can find it simple and engaging. I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of this book today. And then if you need any additional help in this area, The Power of Ted offers seminars designed to teach you the new frameworks that are described in this book, to provide you with tools and tips for making the shift from victim to creator, and to help you apply these new methodologies in yourself, in your relationships, and in the places where you live and work. And so if you'd like to learn more about The Power of Ted, you can visit thepowerofted.com, or you can call 206-780-0994. And before I sign off today, I want to leave you with something new from David Emerald and The Power of Ted. It is called 3VQ, and that stands for 3 Vital Questions, which actually comes from their newer book of that name, 3 Vital Questions. And the new book focuses on transforming workplace drama, whereas Ted maybe was more so on transforming interpersonal drama in your relationships. But once you grasp the concept of Ted and have been able to start making application of it into your life, and you begin seeing measurable change as a result, these 3 vital questions can be applied not just to your work, but also to your home life. And you can begin asking yourself these 3 questions for every area of struggle. It is my hope to someday interview David Emerald here on the show about both TED and 3VQ. So pray for and manifest that with me, will you? Until then, here are the 3 vital questions, and I would recommend that you write them down and see if they don't help you start making sense of how you can change anything in your life that you truly desire change. The first question is, where am I putting my focus? Are you focusing on problems or outcomes, solutions? Because where you focus gets bigger, right? We've talked about that before. And then question number 2 is, how am I relating? How am I relating to others? How am I relating my experience? And how am I relating myself? And then number 3 is, what actions am I taking? Am I reacting, or am I creating actions? So once you understand the 3 old roles, the victim, persecutor, and rescuer, and the 3 new roles, the creator, challenger, and coach, and you begin to apply these 3 vital questions, just watch. I promise you now have the power to change your life. If you ever want to talk about these, please reach out. You can email me at Annie@startingoverstronger.com. You can always book a single session at startingoverstronger.com. And if you're on your way toward divorce as a result of this drama, pause for a moment if you can. Maybe you have felt like you've been unable to repair any of the damage that's been done in your relationship. But if you haven't known about TED and 3VQ, then you now have an opportunity to apply these methodologies to what you might feel like is a hopeless marriage. And if there is hope for change in your marriage, this new way of thinking about drama will open the doors to make that change possible. And I may be a divorce coach, but I'm also a hope coach, and I'm all about saving your marriage if that's good and possible for you. I'm here coaching women before, during, and after divorce. So reach out if you need help in any of those seasons of life. But if you feel like there's more that you can do to save your marriage, I absolutely encourage you to do that. And I would love to support you in that process. But if not, that's okay. You can reach out if you need help through the process of divorce as well. I hope that you have learned something here today about TED and 3VQ that you can apply in your life, no matter where you're at in that process. And I'd love to answer your questions. I'll see you again next week for more help as you divorce and hope as you are starting over stronger.